Hey guys, so today I'm going to work on the FroKnowsPhoto raw edit number 66. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you to all my subscribers for watching my videos and for commenting. I really enjoy reading all your comments, and I even learn from you guys when I don't know how to do things. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I'll have some more videos coming up, and I'll definitely have some more quick tips coming up. I've just been really busy, so I haven't had a chance to get them all out. But they're in the pipeline and they will be coming up. Thank you very much, and keep watching. So let's get into this raw edit. This is an image I opened up in Camera Raw. It was a raw image taken from a Fuji FinePix X100. It's a camera I actually want to get. Just not sure I can. I don't know if I want to get this camera or just get another L lens or something. Can't decide. It looks like a fun camera, but is it too limiting for what it costs? I don't know, but it looks like a fun camera, and it looks like it takes great pictures. So let's just get into this raw edit. I want to do something a little different. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use, instead of doing a raw conversion into a what do you call, like a HDR, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask out the buildings from the background. That way you can always replace the sky with a better sky. This is an okay sky, but I want to expose it differently than the foreground, because the foreground is kind of dark for the perfectly exposed sky. So what I want to do is I want to expose them separately, okay, and then clip out the images and put them on front. Let me show you what I'm going to do, because it's kind of an interesting way of doing it, and I think there's something to be learned. So first thing I'm going to do is try to get my. Okay, sorry about that. I had to pause it for a second. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of get it in the raw to a spot. Oh, I guess I should reset it. I was playing around with it. This is how it came from the camera. So the first thing I want to do is kind of get it to a place where I like it for what I'm doing first. So I'm going to first expose for the sky, bring that into Photoshop. So I'm probably going to go daylight, add a little black, expose it just a tad bit maybe. And I'm not worried about I'm trying to get as much contrast between the buildings and the sky right now so that I can mask them out in a second here. So I'm going to, I think about there looks right for the sky. So I'm going to bring that in holding down the shift button so it brings it in as an object. And again, what that does is it brings it in as a smart object that I can always double click and go back into that camera raw and change it later. And I'm going to do that for a reason. So the first thing I'm going to do is mask them out. Now, one way I can mask out really simple shapes like this is when you have a high contrast like this, you can just use your channels. And it's a great way to mask things. You go to your channels palette right here, and you have your RGB channel, which is all your three channels. You have your red channel, your green channel, and your blue channel. And so what I do is I look for the channel that gives me the most contrast between in this case, the buildings and the sky. So that's the blue channel. So I'm going to drag the blue channel down to this icon and duplicate it so that I have a copy. I'm not actually working on my blue channel. I'm working on my copy of the blue channel. And in that copy, I'm going to use my levels function. Hitting down the Command L will bring up this levels dialog box. And I'm going to make the darks darker, the brights brighter. Sometimes I even work on the mids. And basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create where the buildings are going to be fully black and the sky is going to be fully white, so that when I make this into a mask, basically that's going to be my mask. and it's looking pretty good. Sometimes you can't always get everything, so you have to go in here. And I'm just using my lasso tool. And if you have the lasso tool and it's just this round one, basically it lets you do whatever shape you want. But if you hold down the Option key while you're sorry, I'm sorry. You hold down the Shift. Wow, why isn't this working? Oh yeah, okay. You hold down the Option key while you're doing it, and basically what it does, it turns it into a straight line. So you can do straight line, point, straight line, point, straight line, point, straight line, point. And that's in case you're doing straight lines or something, but you don't always have to use that. That's just a little trick that you can use with that with that tool, which is going to come in handy here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm not going to go right to the edge, because that's what the channel levels function is going to be for, but I'm just going to get as close to it as possible so that I can get all of these windows blackened out. Because those windows are white right now. So okay, so then I'm just going to fill it with black. And to fill it with black, I'm just using Command Delete, which fills to background. Option Delete fills to foreground. Okay, so that's that. And then I'm going to do the same here. See how the edges are not perfectly black yet? Well, I'm just not worried about the edges so much right now, because I'm going to, once I get these parts done, again, I'm going to go back to my levels function and increase my blacks. And increase my blacks will, see now, now it goes all the way to the edge, the black goes all the way to the edge. So that really kind of helped. And that looks like a pretty good mask to me right now, except for the sky part, which I'm going to make white. So there we go. I have my mask. I'm gonna invert it because I want it to look like this. I want the white part is what's gonna stay, and the black part's what's gonna get masked out. So now if we go back to our layers and we go back to this layer and I hit the new mask button, see how it creates a new mask here? Okay, so we have that. Now we go back to my channels and I hit Command and click on this mask that I made. See how it makes a selection? Okay, so now I go back to my layer and I go here and I fill that layer with black. Oops, I did it backwards. So if you hit Command-Shift-I, it'll invert. Command-Shift-I inverts your selection. So now, instead of the building selected, it's the sky that's selected, and I'm going to fill that mask with black, and it's going to get rid of that sky. Cool. So now, why did I do this? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, holding down the Control key, if you hit on the name here, you have this option that's called Smart Object, New Smart Object via Copy. What that'll do is it'll create a new Smart Object on top. So now I can get rid of the mask on the bottom one, right? So now this is the sky that I'm going to use. So that I like the sky, but now the buildings are too dark. So I'm going to go to this top one, the one that doesn't have a sky. See how if I get rid of this bottom layer, the top one doesn't have a sky, and I'm going to double click on it, on the Smart Object part of it, and it's going to bring me back to my camera raw. What I'm going to do here is now, instead of exposing for the sky, I'm going to open it up and expose for the buildings. And make those buildings kind of now be exposed correctly, even if the sky gets a little blown out, or a lot blown out actually. And you might have to go back and forth once you bring it in, because they look too fake or too bright and stuff, and so you're always going to have to be kind of going back and forth. One thing I do like about this method instead of an HDR method is it gives me the control. If I wanted to change the sky, I can change the sky, where HDR doesn't allow me that. And for some reason, I'm not very good at HDR for some reason, because I can never get it to look good. I've seen some amazing HDR and it's got its place, but I can never get it to look good, so I just rather do it myself. I think I'm going to probably bring it in around here, maybe a little brighter. So let's start with that. So now what's going to happen is it's going to update. See how it updated this top layer but not this bottom layer. So it updated this layer. If I were to take off this mask, you know, it would give me that blown out sky. That's not what I'm looking for. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Now, what can I do? What does this need? This is not going to be my final image. I'm going to go to a black and white, but I wanted to get started to where I can get more detail out of these. The first thing I see is this has like a darkness right here that I want to kind of get rid of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my curves just on this top layer, and I'm going to use a gradient in a circle pattern, but I'm going to make it brighter so I can brighten up that. But I'm going to fill this mask in this curve layer to black, and then with my gradient set to white, I'm just going to bring in a little bit of that mask here so that it's only affecting this general area right here to brighten that up a little bit. Same maybe over here as well. I'm going to brighten this up a little bit there. And see, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, see, that's actually looking quite good. I'm going to now go to... I'm going to make another curve layer on top of everything. So this is going to affect both the city and the sky. And I'm going to just make it a contrast curve. And the way I make contrast curves is you basically just lower the darks a little bit and up the brights. See how if I go like this, that's basically what I'm doing, just not that intense. I'm just lowering the blacks just a little bit and lifting up the whites just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of contrast, and you can totally see that contrast. Next, I'm going to use a plugin called Silver Effects, and it's just a plugin I like to use for black and whites. Makes things a little easier, and I have it kind of right here. So I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to hit the Silver Effects plugin button, and it'll open up in Silver Effects, which opens up a new dialog box. It's got its own dialog box, Silver Effects. And here we go. So, you get all these presets of how you want to do black and white. So you got the neutral, you got underexposed. You have all these different options. I tend to like one that's called high structure, right here. See, I tend to like the high structure one. And I'm already noticing that if you saw the color image, there's this blue image right here where the sky didn't have as many clouds. But when you go to black and white, it looks like a dark spot. So I'm probably going to have to lighten this spot up a little bit just so that it all kind of matches. But basically, this is where I'm going to go in black and white. I like to use film types. Silver Effects has this film types dialog where you can have it mimic old film types, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you can go to these and they get really grainy. I tend to like somewhere in these right here. Like I like this Fuji Neopan, and what it does is that if you zoom in, it actually adds. Well, if it did, here it's updating. Hasn't updated yet. Come on. I don't know why my computer's lagging a little bit. Oh, there it goes. It actually adds a little grain, and it does its own thing. It actually does a pretty good job. I like it. You also have these color filter effects, which would filter. It's almost like if you were putting a filter in front of your camera, and they cause different things. Like if you did the blue filter, it would actually kind of get rid of a lot of that blue, brighten up that blue. Because of the sky, but I'm just going to go neutral for now, and I think I'm going to leave it here. Well, I might brighten up some of the things, some of the midtones maybe, just to maybe add a little structure in the midtones. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it from Silver Effects, and I'm going to bring it back into Photoshop. And what it does is, oh man, I got something in my eye. What it does, Silver Effects brings it in as a layer into your Photoshop file, so it just becomes one layer right here, which is perfect. Next thing I want to do is I want to add I want to add a, I want to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to go to Filter, High Pass, Other, High Pass. And this is a high pass sharpening layer. If you put this layer on overlay, it sharpens all your, you'll see if I go on and off, it just gives it a little bit of sharpness to all of these edges, but it also sharpened the sky, which I don't want. I want the sky to be a little softer. So, since we already have this mask made, we can just hold down Command and click on this mask, and it'll make a selection of this mask, and we'll just hit the new mask button, and it basically duplicates that mask. So now this high pass layer is only affecting the buildings themselves. Okay? Let's see how long I'm going. Okay, 15 minutes. Almost done anyways. Okay, so that's that, and then I want to do a lens vignette. And one way I do lens vignettes is I just make a selection, holding down Shift so that it's a perfect circle, because your camera lens is a perfect circle. And then if you hit the Q button, it brings up the quick mask button, and it brings this up, and you can blur that. Filter blur. It just gives you a display of what you're doing. Filter blur, and I'm going to blur it way high, like 250 pixels. So it gives me this real soft blur. All right. Then you hit the quick mask again, it brings it back to selection mode. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to hit Command-Shift-I to inverse my selection. So now the edges of the frame are selected. I'm going to fill that with black. And obviously this is, you know, I made it in the middle, and you would never do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with Command Transform, I'm going to make it kind of high up here. And basically the reason I did a perfect circle is because if you think about how your lens catches the sensor is square inside of your camera, but the lens is capturing a circular image basically. And so that's why you always have more vignetting in the corners, because those are closer to the edge of the circle. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, and I don't want too much, I want a little bit. And then you can always lower the opacity of this layer, just to give it a little bit of a vignette there. That's kind of cool. It's drawing you into the Empire State Building. Now, my sky got a little blown out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mask. I'm going to make a curve, and I'm going to darken a little bit. But see how it darkens everything? Well, remember, we have this mask already. So again, we can select it. Now, here we have to inverse it. No. And fill that up. So now this mask, if you look at it, it's the opposite of the other one, because what I did is I selected the buildings and masked them out. So this curve is no longer affecting the buildings, it's only affecting the sky. So now I have all the rain I want to work on the sky. I can darken the sky a bit and make it a little more intense. Now, remember I told you about this this dark spot right here? So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make a curve on top of here and lighten it. But see how this one, I'm going to fill the whole curve mask with black so that it's not affecting anything. And I'm going to take my gradient circular tool, and I'm going to just try to just do this black part right here so that it's only affecting that black part, and I'm going to lighten that part up just to kind of try to match the rest of the sky, just so it doesn't look like this big black spot right there. You kind of have to be careful because there we go. That looks like at least it matches. It's not this big black spot right there. So it matches a little better. And actually I should have probably done that under new. Okay, so there. Now, there we go. See, now this image is starting to look somewhere where I want it to go. This is starting to look really cool. You know, you could always lower the opacity of the silver effects and you get that like washed out, desaturated look that people have been doing lately. It's not bad, actually. But that's not where I'm going. I'm going straight black and white. I like black and whites, and this is what I'm doing. So, see, I'm just looking around, seeing if I need to do anything else. I might add a little more grain on my own, and the way I like to do grain is I like to make a new layer, fill it with gray, filter, noise, add noise, and 10's about right. And see how it made a layer of noise basically? When you put that on overlay, it'll apply this noise to the layers underneath. But what happened is Photoshop does this noise pattern that's too I don't want to say computerized for me. So what I do is I make a selection smaller, and I make, cause it's too sharp and stuff, make a selection smaller, and then I hit Command J. And what Command J is, it makes new layer via copy. So it takes that selection and it copies whatever that layer I was on, which was this layer, made a copy of it here. Now, if you look at it, it made a copy that's smaller because I had only selected this part. But what I want to do is I want to make that bigger. And what that does is it'll actually degrade those pixels and make them not so clean, not so perfectly sharp. It'll make them look a little bit more like film grain. If you look at it, they look a little rougher, a little softer, a little not so perfectly computerized. Again, I'm having a little bit of a darkness issue right here, which I can, again, make a new curve, brighten up that curve, fill it with black, use my gradient, and then just do this part right there. And that cleans up that. Where's my... Yeah, my vignette's still there perfectly. So I think that's where I'm going to end up with this image, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to my channel if you like it. Keep watching, and I'll see you next time. All right.